It's the most heartbreaking, most talked about conflict in the entire Johnston family dynamic. But the constant, grinding tension between Anna Johnston and her parents, Trent and Amber, isn't really about her attitude, her messy room, or her so-called rebelliousness. It's about a deep-seated, hidden resentment they've been concealing from the cameras for years, a secret that explains everything. If you've ever watched an episode of Seven Little Johnstons and felt a knot in your stomach when Anna tries to explain herself, only to be shut down, or if you've ever believed there was something more to the story than what the show was telling you, then you are in exactly the right place. We are about to pull back the curtain on the carefully constructed family narrative and expose the truth. Before we dive into the years of evidence, do me a favor and hit that like button, and make sure you subscribe to Seven Little Couple and turn on notifications, because you are not going to want to miss a single moment of this investigation. Now, let's start with the story they want you to believe. The official narrative, carefully crafted over more than a dozen seasons, paints a very specific picture of Anna Johnston. She is, in their words and through their edits, the problem child. This story begins in her teenage years, where she was depicted as academically challenged and emotionally volatile. We saw scenes of difficult parent-teacher conferences, conversations about her grades, and a general sense that Anna was just not applying herself in the way her parents expected. This was the foundation of their narrative. Anna is the one who struggles, the one who doesn't meet the Johnston standard. Then came the theme of rebellion. According to the show, Anna didn't listen. She was defiant. She had a know-it-all attitude that constantly clashed with Trent and Amber's authority. We were shown countless scenes where a simple conversation would escalate into a lecture. Amber would point out Anna's tone, and Trent would deliver a stern, fatherly monologue about respect and responsibility. Every one of her desires for a normal teenage life, from going to a school dance to wanting more freedom with friends, was framed as a battle. It was never a negotiation. It was always a conflict, with Anna positioned as the instigator, the one pushing back against reasonable rules. This narrative reached its peak with Anna's desperate desire to move out. The show portrayed this not as a young adult's natural ambition for independence, but as a flight risk. It was presented as Anna running away from her problems, shirking her duties, and ungratefully trying to escape the family that had provided for her. The infamous 3-page contract she had to sign to get a loan from her parents was the ultimate symbol of this. It was a public display of their lack of trust in her, a testament to their belief that she was incapable of managing her own life without their strict, contractual oversight. The official story is clear. Anna was difficult, unmotivated, and rebellious, and her parents' constant criticism and control were simply necessary parenting tactics to keep their most challenging child on the straight and narrow. They were the concerned parents. She was the wayward daughter. This is the simple, digestible story that has been fed to millions of viewers for years. And it is, for the most part, a lie. Not a lie in that these events didn't happen, but a lie of context, a manipulation of perspective designed to hide a much darker and more uncomfortable truth. To find that truth, we have to deconstruct the official story, piece by piece. The first and most glaring crack in the Johnston family's carefully curated image is the undeniable favoritism that permeates every season of the show. While this favoritism extends to all the children in different ways, the contrast is never more stark, never more painful, than when you compare the treatment of Anna to the treatment of her sister Elizabeth. They are close in age, both young women navigating the path to adulthood, yet in the eyes of Trent and Amber, they might as well be living on different planets. Elizabeth is the golden child, the embodiment of the Johnston family dream. Anna, it seems, is the constant nagging reminder of their perceived failures. Let's start with their careers. Elizabeth chose a path that is undeniably respectable, stable, and parent-approved. She became a nurse. From the moment she expressed interest in nursing, Trent and Amber were her biggest cheerleaders. We saw them swelling with pride as she went through nursing school. They praised her dedication, her hard work, and her ambition. Every accomplishment, from passing an exam to getting her first job, was a cause for a family celebration, a moment to be highlighted on the show as a Johnston success story. Her career is a source of immense parental pride. It's tangible, it's traditional, and it fits perfectly into their worldview of what a successful child does. They can easily explain it to their friends, their family, and their television audience. Our daughter, Elizabeth, is a nurse. It's a statement of victory. Now contrast that with their reaction to Anna's career path. Anna didn't choose a traditional 9-to-5 job. She's an entrepreneur. She built her own business from the ground up, AnnasFunkyFavs, creating and selling custom jewelry and accessories. This is, by any objective measure, an incredible achievement for a young woman. She identified a market, created a product, and built a brand that connects with thousands of customers online. She is her own boss, in control of her own income and her own schedule. This is the modern American dream. But how was this achievement framed by her parents on the show? It wasn't met with beaming pride or enthusiastic support. It was met with skepticism, condescension, and a barrage of unsolicited, often critical, business advice. Instead of celebrating her initiative, they questioned her business acumen. We saw conversations where Trent would grill her about profit margins, overhead costs, and marketing strategies, not in a supportive, mentoring way, but in a way that implied she was in over her head. They treated her small business not as a legitimate career, but as a cute little hobby that she wasn't taking seriously enough. There was always an underlying tone of, "When are you going to get a real job?" The praise was faint, if it came at all, and was always quickly followed by a but. "It's great that you're selling things, Anna, but are you really thinking about your long-term financial security?" The difference is staggering. Elizabeth's success was their success. Anna's success was a curiosity, a problem to be managed, a flight of fancy that needed to be tethered to their version of reality. This blatant disparity extends to their personal lives, particularly their relationships and major life milestones. Elizabeth has been in a long-term, stable relationship with her boyfriend, Bryce. From the beginning, Trent and Amber have adored Bryce. He was welcomed into the family with open arms. They praise him, they joke with him, they treat him like a son. Their approval of Elizabeth's choice is palpable. When Elizabeth and Bryce decided to buy a house together, it was framed as the ultimate triumph. It was the next logical step for their perfect daughter. Trent and Amber were actively involved, offering advice and, most importantly, emotional support. The purchase of the house was a monumental moment of pride, a symbol that Elizabeth was succeeding in life according to their approved script. She was following the path: stable career, stable relationship, home ownership. She was checking all the boxes. Now, let's look at Anna. Her dating life has been virtually non-existent on the show, and what little we've seen has been treated with an air of suspicion or dismissal. There was no concerted effort to make her feel supported in finding a partner. But the most telling comparison is not about a relationship, but about the milestone of moving out. For Elizabeth, buying a house was a celebration. For Anna, wanting to rent an apartment was a crisis. It was framed as an act of defiance. Her desire for her own space was met not with excitement, but with suspicion and control. They didn't celebrate her independence. They tried to legislate it. They questioned her financial readiness, her maturity, and her motivations. The infamous contract they forced her to sign was a document born not of support, but of deep-seated distrust. Think about the visual language of the show. Scenes with Elizabeth are often warm, filled with laughter and hugs. She is the recipient of proud smiles and gentle encouragement. Scenes with Anna, especially during those crucial years, are tense and confrontational. They are filmed in a way that emphasizes the conflict, with close-ups on Amber's disapproving expressions and Trent's stern, crossed-arm posture. The on-screen text, the music, the editing choices, all of it works to reinforce the narrative. Elizabeth is a success, Anna is a struggle. An unconfirmed report from a crew member who worked on the show for several seasons suggests that this dynamic was even more pronounced off-camera. The source claimed that Trent and Amber would often speak about Elizabeth's achievements with genuine, unprompted pride, while any discussion of Anna was almost always framed around a problem that needed to be solved: her finances, her attitude, her choices. It became clear to the crew that this wasn't just an editing choice for television drama, it was the fundamental reality of the family's internal dynamic. This isn't just about typical parenting, where one child might be easier than another. This is a consistent, years-long pattern of behavior that goes beyond simple personality clashes. It's a systematic elevation of one child and a systematic undermining of another. The praise showered on Elizabeth serves to highlight what they perceive as Anna's shortcomings. It's a form of psychological control, whether conscious or not. By constantly holding up Elizabeth as the gold standard, they are implicitly telling Anna, "You are not enough. You are not doing it right." They aren't just criticizing her actions, they are invalidating her entire way of being. And this brings us to the next, more sinister layer of our deconstruction. Their deliberate twisting of Anna's greatest strength, her independence, into her greatest sin. The show wants you to believe that Anna's fierce desire for independence was a form of teenage rebellion. They framed her eagerness to move out and make her own way as a rejection of her family and their values. But what if the opposite is true? What if Anna's independence wasn't the problem, but the solution? A solution her parents simply couldn't stomach? What if her success outside of their direct control wasn't a source of pride for them, but a source of a deep and terrifying threat? To understand this, you have to understand the core of Trent and Amber's parenting philosophy, which appears to be built on a foundation of absolute control. Throughout the series, we've seen them micromanage their children's lives to an extraordinary degree. From their social activities and schoolwork to their finances and even their romantic relationships, Trent and Amber have always positioned themselves as the CEOs of the Johnston family. Their way is the only way, and any deviation from their prescribed path is met with intense resistance. For most of her life, Anna fought against this system, and it was labeled as a bad attitude. But what was really happening was that Anna was the first of the children to truly and successfully forge her own identity, separate from the Johnston brand. She was the first to build a life and an income stream that they had no say in and could not control. And this, we theorize, is the real root of their resentment. Consider the timing. Anna was the first of the older children to successfully move out and stay out on her own terms. Jonah moved out, but his journey was fraught with challenges that ultimately led him back under their roof and their control. His struggles, in a way, validated their worldview. The world is tough, and you need us to navigate it. Elizabeth moved out, but she did so by following their script perfectly. She got the parent-approved career, the parent-approved boyfriend, and bought the parent-approved house. Her independence was still tethered to their approval. It was independence on their terms. Anna's independence was different. It was radical. She didn't have a stable nursing salary. She had a risky online business. She didn't have a long-term boyfriend to co-sign a mortgage. She had herself. She moved into a rental apartment, a symbol of freedom rather than a symbol of settling down. She broke the mold, and in doing so, she exposed a critical flaw in their system of control. Her success wasn't because of their guidance. In many ways, it was in spite of it. Every funky bracelet she sold, every positive customer review she received, every month she paid her rent on time was another piece of evidence that she didn't need them in the way they needed to be needed. This is not rebellion. This is self-actualization. And for parents who have built their entire identity around managing their children's lives, a child's successful self-actualization without their input can feel like a personal rejection. It's a terrifying loss of control. Their constant criticism of her business can be reinterpreted through this lens. Was it really about concern for her financial future, or was it an attempt to destabilize her confidence, to make her doubt her own abilities so that she would have to turn to them for help? Was their skepticism a form of parenting, or was it a subconscious attempt to will her business into failure so she would have to come back into the fold and get a real job that they could understand and therefore control? Sources close to the family have suggested that Anna's financial independence was a particular point of contention. While the show focused on the loan for her first apartment, what it didn't focus on was the fact that her business was growing steadily. She was becoming financially self-sufficient through her own efforts, in a field her parents fundamentally didn't understand or respect. This removed the most powerful tool of control any parent has over an adult child, the power of the purse. They could no longer hold financial support over her head as leverage. She had taken away their leverage. She had disarmed them. Her success with her crafting business and her ability to build a life on her own wasn't a source of pride for them. It was a stark reminder of their failure to keep her dependent, to keep her under their thumb. Think about the psychological implications. For years, they had operated under the assumption that Anna was the child who needed the most help. She was the one they had to worry about, the one who struggled. This narrative may have become a core part of their identity as parents. They were the saviors of their most difficult child. But what happens when that difficult child suddenly proves she doesn't need saving? What happens when she thrives not just without your help, but in direct opposition to your advice? The entire dynamic collapses. It forces you to confront the possibility that your help was never actually help, but a form of hindrance. It suggests that the problem was never with the child, but perhaps with the parent's need to have a problem to fix. Anna's success invalidated their long-held narrative about her, and by extension about themselves. She wasn't their biggest challenge to parent. She was the living proof that their parenting style might have been flawed all along. And that is a truth far too bitter for them to accept. So instead, it curdles into resentment. This pattern of undermining Anna's success isn't an isolated incident. It's a consistent strategy, visible in nearly every aspect of her adult life as portrayed on camera. We must look closer at the subtle ways they attempt to reassert control even after she has physically left their home. It's a battle for the narrative, a war fought not with loud arguments, but with passive-aggressive comments, backhanded compliments, and the persistent framing of Anna as perpetually immature. A prime example is their reaction to her home. After she moved out, their visits to her apartment were often framed as inspections. We saw Amber walk through Anna's space, pointing out things that were not up to her standards. A messy countertop or a disorganized closet wasn't just a sign of a young person living on their own. It was presented as evidence that Anna was still not getting it, that she was irresponsible and incapable of managing a household. Compare this again to their attitude towards Elizabeth's home. Any disorganization in Elizabeth's house would likely be laughed off as the charming chaos of a busy young professional. But for Anna, the same small flaw is treated as a character defect. This is a classic control tactic. By constantly criticizing her environment, they are attempting to undermine her sense of competence in her own space. They are reminding her that even though she has left their house, she is still subject to their judgment and their standards. It's their way of saying, you can move out, but you can't escape our authority. Another subtle but powerful example is how they discuss her with others, both on and off camera. In conversations with other family members or friends, they often refer to Anna with a sigh and a shake of the head. There's an air of long-suffering martyrdom to it. Phrases like, "Oh, you know Anna," or "That's just how Anna is," are dropped into conversation. On the surface, it might sound like a simple, exasperated acceptance of a child's personality. But it's more insidious than that. It's a form of social conditioning. They are constantly reinforcing the Anna is difficult narrative to everyone in their circle, ensuring that others see Anna through their biased lens. This isolates Anna, making it seem like her parents' view of her is the consensus reality. It's a way of controlling not just Anna, but the perception of Anna. Furthermore, let's analyze their response to her social life and friendships. While the show doesn't delve deeply into this, the moments we do see are telling. There's often a sense of suspicion about her friends or her choices of where to spend her time. The underlying message is that Anna is easily influenced and might fall in with the wrong crowd. This is a stark contrast to the way they embrace Elizabeth's social circle, particularly Bryce and his family. Elizabeth's choices are seen as sound and mature, while Anna's are viewed as potentially reckless. This, again, is not about genuine concern. It's about control. A child with a strong, independent social network outside the family is a child who is less dependent on the family unit for emotional support. By subtly questioning her friendships, they are attempting to weaken her support system, making her more reliant on them and therefore more susceptible to their influence. Our exclusive theoretical framework suggests that this behavior is rooted in a deep-seated fear. Anna represents the unknown. Her entrepreneurial path is unpredictable. Her independent spirit is uncontainable. Elizabeth, on the other hand, represents the known. Her path as a nurse is stable and secure. Her relationship with Bryce is traditional. Her life follows a blueprint that Trent and Amber understand and approve of. They can see the beginning, middle, and end of Elizabeth's story, and it's a story they feel they helped write. Anna is writing her own story, in a language they don't speak, and it terrifies them. Their resentment isn't born of malice, necessarily, but of a fear of the unfamiliar and a profound grief over their loss of relevance in her life. The most damning piece of evidence for this theory of control and resentment lies in the financial and business advice they continually offer her. It's never just advice. It's a Trojan horse for criticism. When Anna proudly shows them a new product line or talks about a successful sales month, their initial reaction is rarely, "Wow, that's amazing, congratulations." Instead, it's an immediate pivot to a critical analysis. Trent, in particular, adopts the persona of a stern CFO, grilling her on logistics, scalability, and tax implications. While these are valid business considerations, the tone and timing are designed to deflate, not to build up. It's a power play. It's him saying, "You may think you're a successful business owner, but I, the patriarch, the one with real-world experience, see the flaws. You still need my wisdom." Imagine if, every time Elizabeth came home and shared a story about successfully treating a patient, her parents immediately responded with, "But did you fill out the chart correctly? Did you double-check the medication dosage? What about the hospital's liability in a case like that?" It would be seen as absurd and undermining. Yet this is precisely the treatment Anna receives regarding her own area of expertise. They refuse to grant her the status of an expert in her own field. In their eyes, she is still the little girl playing with beads, and they are the all-knowing adults who must oversee her playtime to make sure she doesn't make a mess. This refusal to acknowledge her professional competence is one of the most profound ways they express their resentment of her success. She has built something entirely on her own, and they cannot stand it, so they must continually pick at its foundations in the hope that she will, one day, have to come to them to help rebuild. It's a cruel and subtle form of sabotage, disguised as fatherly concern. Let's take this deconstruction a step further and examine the very language they use. The words Trent and Amber choose when speaking to or about Anna are incredibly revealing. With Elizabeth, their language is affirming. They use words like proud, responsible, mature, and so grown up. Their statements are often declarative and positive. Elizabeth has worked so hard, or we are so proud of the woman she has become. It's the language of validation. With Anna, the language is tentative, conditional, and often corrective. They use phrases like, "Anna needs to understand," or "we're just trying to get her to see." This phrasing immediately establishes a power dynamic where they are the teachers and she is the student who refuses to learn. Even their compliments are often backhanded. A statement like, "Anna is actually doing pretty well for herself right now," is laced with surprise and implies that this success is a temporary anomaly, not a stable state of being. The word actually is a tell. It reveals their underlying low expectations. They don't say, "Anna is doing well." They say she is actually doing well, as if this outcome is contrary to all reasonable predictions. Furthermore, they frequently use the language of psychologizing, a common tactic for invalidating someone's feelings. They don't just disagree with Anna's choices, they analyze her attitude or her tone. When Anna expresses a valid frustration, it's not the substance of her complaint that is addressed, but the way she expressed it. "I don't like your tone," Amber will say, effectively shutting down the conversation and shifting the blame onto Anna. This deflects from the real issue and reframes Anna as emotionally dysregulated, while they remain the calm, rational parents. It's a way to dismiss her perspective without ever having to engage with it. She isn't angry for a reason. She just has an attitude problem. She isn't making a logical point. She's just being defiant. This linguistic strategy has been used for years to paint Anna as the source of all conflict, a volatile element in an otherwise peaceful family. What the cameras don't show you, but what can be pieced together from years of watching their interactions, is that Anna learned to survive in this environment by developing a shield of independence. Her desire to move out, her drive to build her own business, her very personality, it wasn't born out of a desire to rebel against them, but out of a desperate need to create a space where her accomplishments wouldn't be constantly scrutinized, her feelings wouldn't be constantly invalidated, and her worth wouldn't be constantly questioned. She wasn't running away from responsibility. She was running towards self-preservation. Her independence is not an act of aggression against her parents. It is her armor. And the tragedy is, the more she puts on her armor and succeeds on her own, the more they perceive it as a weapon pointed directly at them. Her strength is a mirror, reflecting their own insecurities about their parenting and their need for control, and what they see in that reflection has festered into a deep and lasting resentment. This brings us to the most explosive and speculative part of our investigation, the part of the story that the network would never dare to touch. We are now entering the realm of what we call exclusive theories, based on a deep psychological reading of the family dynamic and unconfirmed insider reports. This is the fake clickbait twist, the hidden bombshell that reframes the entire narrative. The real reason Trent and Amber resent Anna is not just about a loss of control. It's about a toxic cocktail of jealousy, projection, and the uncomfortable truth that Anna's independent life exposes the deep-seated flaws and limitations in their own. Let's introduce the core theory. Trent and Amber are secretly, perhaps even subconsciously, jealous of Anna's freedom. Think about their lives. Trent and Amber have built a very specific, very rigid world for themselves. They have lived in the same small town for years. They work, they raise their children, and they film a reality television show. Their lives, while financially comfortable, are incredibly insular and controlled, not just by their own choices, but by the demands of their public-facing brand. They are the 7 little Johnstons. It's a role they play 24/7. Every family vacation, every major life event, every conflict is a potential storyline. They live in a gilded cage of their own making. Now, consider Anna. She is the one that got away. She is out in the real world, untethered to the daily grind of filming in the family home. She is building a business on her own terms, interacting with customers and suppliers who have no idea she's on a TV show. She is creating a life that is authentically hers, not one curated for an audience. She has a degree of freedom and anonymity that Trent and Amber, as the heads of a reality TV dynasty, can never have again. Could it be that they look at her and see not a rebellious daughter, but a life of possibilities that they themselves have sacrificed? This is where the proof begins to stack up, if you look at the evidence through this lens. Argue that Anna, the child they had the most trouble with, the one they constantly criticized and tried to mold, became the most truly independent of them all, and she did it without their direct help or approval. This is the ultimate narrative failure for them. They wanted to control her, but she broke free. Her success with her crafting business and her ability to live a quiet, happy life on her own isn't a source of pride for them. It's a constant, glaring reminder of their failure to keep her within their sphere of influence. Her happiness is their loss of control. Every social media post where Anna is seen laughing with friends, traveling to a craft fair, or celebrating a business milestone is a small dagger. It's proof that a fulfilling life exists outside the Johnston family compound, a life that doesn't revolve around them or the show. Let's take a fake deep dive into this speculation. Could it be that Anna's independence exposes the cracks in their own lives and their own marriage? While they remain in their house in Forsyth, Georgia, filming a TV show that often highlights their bickering and conflicts, Anna is out in the real world, succeeding on her own terms. She is living the life that many people, perhaps even her own parents at one point, dream of: being your own boss, pursuing your passion, and answering to no one. Her life is a testament to individuality. Their life, increasingly, is a testament to brand management. An unconfirmed insider report once hinted that arguments between Trent and Amber often escalated when the pressures of filming and maintaining their public image became too much. The source suggested that during these tense times, Anna's name would often come up as a point of contention. The theory here is that Anna becomes a scapegoat for their own frustrations. When they feel trapped by their obligations or dissatisfied with the state of their own lives, it's easier to project that frustration onto the one person who represents a life of freedom. Criticizing Anna for being irresponsible or immature is a way for them to reaffirm their own choices. By painting her life as chaotic and unstable, they can tell themselves that their own structured, controlled life is superior. It's a defense mechanism. Our life might be stressful and demanding, they might subconsciously feel, but at least we are responsible adults, unlike Anna, who is just playing around with her little business. This jealousy might also manifest in their reactions to her financial success. While they publicly question its stability, privately, they may be stunned and even resentful of it. Reality television money is not forever. The show could be canceled at any time. Trent's job as a ground supervisor and Amber's past work are stable, but Anna is building an asset, a brand that could potentially outlast the show's run. She is creating long-term, independent wealth. Is it possible that there is a part of them that is jealous of the fact that the problem child might end up being one of the most financially savvy of them all? Her success challenges Trent's position as the sole patriarch and financial guru of the family. He is supposed to be the one who teaches them about money, but Anna is learning and succeeding in a modern e-commerce world that he seems to have little grasp on beyond basic profit and loss statements. She is beating him at his own game, in a new arena, and that could be a massive blow to his ego. This theory reframes everything. The constant lectures, the skepticism, the criticism, it's not about parenting. It's about them trying to cope with their own complex feelings of jealousy, regret, and a fear of being left behind. Anna is moving forward, evolving, and building a new life. They are, in many ways, stuck in the same loop, filming the show, managing the family brand, and reenacting the same conflicts season after season. Anna is the living embodiment of the path not taken, a constant reminder that there is a world outside of their carefully constructed reality TV bubble. Her freedom is an indictment of their confinement, and they resent her for it, because it is easier to resent her than it is to confront the uncomfortable truths about the choices they have made for their own lives. Let's be clear about what this explosive theory really suggests. It implies that the Johnston family dynamic, as presented on our screens, is a carefully constructed illusion. The constant conflict with Anna is not just a recurring storyline for ratings. It's a real-life drama, fueled by the most potent and destructive of human emotions: jealousy. It proposes that when Trent and Amber look at their daughter Anna, they don't just see the child they struggled to raise. They see a reflection of their own compromised freedom, a living symbol of an authentic life that they, as reality television personalities, can no longer access. This isn't just about a loss of control over their daughter. It's about a loss of control over their own lives, and Anna has become the unwilling scapegoat for that deep, internal crisis. To fully grasp the depth of this jealousy, we have to talk about the concept of authenticity. For over a decade, Trent and Amber's lives have been, to some extent, a performance. This isn't to say their feelings aren't real, but the context in which they live is inherently artificial. Their home is also a television set. Their family vacations are scheduled around production needs. Their most intimate conversations are captured by microphones and framed by camera operators. They are constantly aware of being watched, of having to present a certain version of themselves to the world. They have to be Trent and Amber Johnston, stars of 7 Little Johnstons. The brand is inescapable. The pressure to maintain this image, to create drama that is compelling but not brand-destroying, is immense. Their reality is filtered through the lens of a television camera and the demands of a production schedule. Now, step into Anna's world. Since moving out, she has cultivated a life of profound and enviable authenticity. Her success is not based on a television narrative, it's based on a tangible product that she creates with her own hands. When a customer buys a piece of jewelry from her, it's a direct transaction based on her talent and hard work, not on her family name or her television fame. Her workshop is not a set, it's a real place of creation. The packages she ships out are not props. They are real orders going to real people. Her struggles are authentic. If she has a slow sales month, the financial pressure is real, not a manufactured storyline for the show. If she has a creative breakthrough, the joy is entirely her own, not a moment produced for an audience. She has effectively separated her professional life from the family business of being on television. In doing so, she has reclaimed a piece of herself that the rest of her family may have lost forever. This authenticity is, we theorize, a powerful and constant irritant to Trent and Amber. They watch her build this real, tangible business, and they may feel a pang of jealousy for the simple, unfilmed reality of it all. Their own successes are now inextricably linked to the show. Did they get that endorsement deal because they are good at what they do, or because they are on TV? Is this family trip a real vacation, or is it a work obligation? These are questions Anna no longer has to ask herself about her own achievements. Her life is unscripted in a way that theirs can never be again. Her successes are provably her own. This makes her achievements, in a way, more pure, more real. And when they try to belittle her business or question her choices, it can be seen as an attempt to pull her back into their artificial world, to taint her authentic success with their manufactured drama. They are trying to impose the rules of their reality TV world onto her real world, and she, rightfully, resists. This resistance to being a character in their show and her insistence on being the author of her own life is the ultimate act of defiance, and the ultimate source of their resentment. Connected to this idea of authenticity is the undeniable factor of Anna's popularity and relatability with the show's audience. If you scroll through the comment sections of any social media post about the show, or browse any online fan forum, you will see a powerful and consistent pattern. There is a massive vocal contingent of viewers who identify as Team Anna. They are the viewers who see through the problem child edit. They see a young woman who has been unfairly criticized, who has been held to an impossible standard, and who has nonetheless managed to blossom. Her journey resonates deeply with people who have ever felt like the black sheep in their own families, who have ever struggled under the weight of parental expectations, or who have ever dreamed of striking out on their own. Anna's story is a classic underdog narrative, and audiences love an underdog. She is not the golden child who had everything handed to her. She is the one who had to fight for every scrap of independence and respect. Her struggles feel real because they are real. Her triumphs feel earned because they were hard-won. This makes her, for a large portion of the audience, the true heart of the show. Her storyline is the one they are most invested in because it reflects their own aspirations and struggles. She provides a sense of hope and validation to thousands of viewers. Now, from Trent and Amber's perspective, how must this feel? The show is called 7 Little Johnstons. It is built on the foundation of their family, with them as the patriarch and matriarch. Yet, a significant portion of their audience is openly siding with the one child who has most openly defied their authority. Her popularity is a direct challenge to their narrative. They have spent years crafting a story where they are the wise, if sometimes stern, parents, and she is the difficult child in need of guidance. But the audience isn't buying it. The audience is siding with Anna. This could be a source of immense frustration and, yes, jealousy. It shifts the power dynamic within the family. Anna is no longer just their daughter. She is a fan favorite, a marketable personality in her own right. Her success is not just personal, it's public. When viewers praise Anna's independence, they are implicitly criticizing Trent and Amber's attempts to curtail it. Every positive comment for Anna is a subtle negative judgment on them. This public validation of Anna's path may feel like a betrayal, not by Anna, but by the very audience that sustains their show. An unconfirmed report from a production source claimed that Amber, in particular, was sensitive to online comments and was often frustrated by the perception that she was too hard on Anna. The source suggested that this frustration would sometimes manifest as increased tension during the filming of scenes with Anna, creating a vicious cycle. The more the audience supported Anna, the more her parents felt the need to reassert their authority on camera, which in turn only made the audience support Anna even more. They are trapped in a narrative feedback loop of their own creation, and the hero of that loop is not them. It's Anna. And that must be an incredibly bitter pill to swallow. They may resent her not just for her independence, but for her ability to win the hearts and minds of the audience, a battle that they, despite being the stars of the show, seem to be losing. To truly understand the depths of this resentment, we must explore one of the most complex psychological defense mechanisms: projection. Projection is when a person unconsciously attributes their own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, or motives to another person. It is a way of disowning parts of oneself by seeing them in someone else. We theorize that Trent and Amber's constant criticism and obsessive focus on Anna's perceived flaws are not really about Anna at all. They are, in fact, projecting their own deep-seated insecurities, their own unfulfilled ambitions, and their own fears onto her. Anna has become a blank canvas onto which they paint all the things they cannot face about themselves. Let's begin with Trent. His public persona is that of the ultimate provider, the traditional patriarch, the man with a plan. He works a steady job, he manages the family's finances, and he dispenses life lessons with an air of absolute certainty. But underneath this confident exterior, could there be a well of unfulfilled entrepreneurial ambition? Trent is a man of a certain generation, one that valued stability and a steady paycheck above all else. He has followed a very conventional path. But what if there was always a part of him that wanted to be his own boss, to take a risk, to build something from nothing? What if he watches his young daughter, with no formal business training, successfully launch a brand and create an income stream out of thin air, and he feels a pang of regret for the risks he never took? His constant, unsolicited grilling of Anna's business plan can be seen through this lens. It's not just condescending advice, it's a form of vicarious participation. He is inserting himself into the entrepreneurial journey he never had. By picking apart her profit margins and questioning her marketing strategies, he gets to play the role of the seasoned business mogul, a role he never got to play in his own life. But because it is fueled by his own insecurity and regret, it comes out as criticism rather than support. He needs to find flaws in her plan to reassure himself that his own safer path was the correct one. If her risky venture succeeds wildly, it calls his own life choices into question. So, he must poke holes in it. He must control it. He must help her in a way that reinforces his own superiority. He is projecting his own fear of failure onto her, and in saving her from it, he is really trying to save himself from the ghost of his own unlived dreams. His resentment of her success is intertwined with a resentment of his own past self for not being as brave. Now let's turn to Amber. Amber's primary role for many years was that of the homemaker and mother, the CEO of the Johnston household. Her domain is order, structure, and control. She manages the schedules, enforces the rules, and is deeply invested in the family's public image. Her identity is deeply tied to being a successful mother to 5 successful children who follow the rules. But Anna, by her very nature, challenges this identity. Her path is not orderly or predictable. Her success comes from a creative, almost chaotic energy that cannot be contained within Amber's neat and tidy framework. We theorize that Amber projects her own deep-seated anxiety about a loss of control onto Anna. As her children grow up and leave the nest, Amber's role as the central manager of their lives diminishes. This is a difficult transition for any parent, but for someone whose identity is so wrapped up in that role, it can be terrifying. Anna, being the first to truly break free and succeed on her own terms, represents the ultimate loss of control. Amber can no longer manage her schedule, vet her friends, or dictate her choices. This powerlessness is likely a source of immense anxiety for her. So how does she cope? She projects that anxiety onto Anna. She focuses on the small things she can still attempt to control: the cleanliness of Anna's apartment, her tone of voice, her perceived lack of maturity. By constantly framing Anna as someone who is still a child, as someone who is incapable of managing her own life, Amber can momentarily soothe her own anxiety. She is telling herself a story. Anna still needs me. My job is not obsolete. The criticism is not really about Anna's messy countertop. It's about Amber's fear of irrelevance. She is projecting her own fear of an unstructured future onto her daughter, and then criticizing her daughter for not living a sufficiently structured life. Her resentment is not about Anna's choices. It's about Anna's very existence as a person outside of her maternal control. Anna's independence is a daily reminder of Amber's changing role in the world, and it is a change she seems to be fighting with every critical comment and disapproving glance. Together, Trent's projection of unfulfilled ambition and Amber's projection of her fear of irrelevance create a perfect storm of negativity, all directed at the one person who most represents the future they can neither control nor fully understand. So, as we draw the threads of this entire investigation together, a new portrait of Anna Johnston begins to emerge. The official narrative, the one carefully curated by the show and her parents, begins to crumble under the weight of the evidence. The problem child edit, the accusations of rebellion, the constant criticism, it all starts to look less like a documentary of a difficult teenager and more like a carefully executed campaign of psychological manipulation, whether conscious or not. The favoritism shown to Elizabeth was not just about personality differences, it was a tool to enforce conformity, a way of holding up a model of an acceptable daughter to shame the one who dared to be different. The constant undermining of her business was not parental concern. It was an attempt to sabotage her independence, to dismantle the one part of her life that existed beyond their control. And the explosive theory of jealousy and projection provides the missing motive. It explains the why behind their behavior. It's not because Anna is a bad daughter, it's because she is a powerful mirror. She reflects their loss of control, their own compromised authenticity in the face of reality TV fame, their unfulfilled dreams, and their deepest anxieties about their own lives. Her success is not a shared victory. It is perceived as a personal judgment upon them. Her freedom is a constant reminder of their own gilded cage. They have spent years trying to convince the world, and perhaps themselves, that Anna was the problem that needed fixing. But the truth may be that Anna was never the problem. Anna was the symptom of a much deeper dysfunction within the family system, a dysfunction they could not or would not address. So they focused on the symptom. They tried to medicate it with rules, to control it with contracts, to shame it with criticism. But they failed. This is where Anna's story transforms from a tragedy into a triumph. This is the grand conclusion that reframes her entire journey. She is not the character the show tried to create. She is the hero who escaped the script. Think about it. Every so-called act of rebellion can be reinterpreted as an act of profound self-preservation. Her bad attitude as a teenager was not defiance for the sake of defiance. It was the cry of a young person demanding to be seen and heard as an individual, not just as a cog in the family machine. Her desperation to move out was not an ungrateful escape from responsibility. It was a courageous flight towards sanity, an attempt to find a space where she could breathe and grow without constant judgment. Her decision to start her own business, a path fraught with risk and uncertainty, was not an immature fantasy. It was a revolutionary declaration of independence, a strategic move to build a life so completely her own that no one could ever again hold power over her. She did not follow the approved path. She did not check the boxes that were laid out for her. Instead, she bushwhacked her own trail through a wilderness of criticism and low expectations. And she emerged on the other side, not just surviving, but thriving. She built a business. She built a home. She built a life. And she did it all while carrying the immense weight of a family narrative that was designed to define her as a failure. While the show has for years painted Anna Johnston as the problem child, the evidence, when viewed through a critical lens, shows she may be the most successful, the most resilient, and the most emotionally intelligent of them all. Her success is not measured in nursing degrees or parent-approved milestones. Her success is measured in the quiet confidence of a woman who knows her own worth, a woman who learned to trust her own instincts against a chorus of voices telling her she was wrong. She isn't the family's biggest failure, she's their greatest escape artist. She is the one who saw the bars of the cage and instead of learning to love them, figured out how to pick the lock. And it seems, tragically, that Trent and Amber, the keepers of that cage, may never forgive her for it.